The one thing that AI will never do is to be like a human. We have to protect what makes us human. We have to protect our data. We have to protect that nobody else gets the data that's not supposed to. We have to be mindful that the data may be wrong or biased. The key to our future in supply chain and in general, of course, is awesome humans and amazing technology. The thing about large language models like ChatGPT, frequently wrong, but never in doubt. The question about AI is not what it will do to us, but what do we want it to do for us? What's the goal? How do we use it to make our lives better, our business better? These days, a lot of people think about the future and they say the future is going to be bad. Not so much in America, which is interesting to see that people think about artificial intelligence, for example. 72% of Americans think it's kind of the end of the world, that we have machines that can be intelligent. There's a lot of fear on this topic. In Europe, we don't have that. But in Europe, about 70% of young people between 25 and 35 say they won't have kids because the future is bad. Can you believe that? So a lot of people are saying the doors are closing for humanity. Not only do we have mad people starting wars, we have geopolitical issues, we can't agree on anything, we have the social media, a long list to follow. We also have climate change, which means 4 degrees warming, 500 million people migrating, bad stories. But I really think the doors are opening, they're not closing. And when the doors open, you may know this if you've ever been to therapy with your husband or your wife, or your kids for that matter, right? It's painful when the door opens because you have to go through a closed door. You have to find a tiny opening. And this is what's happening right now. A lot of doors are jammed shut and we have to find new places to go. And I think really the future is better than we think. And not just because of technology, but also I think we're getting forced into finding solutions. I call that the good future. And I started a global project called the Good Future Project. And part of that is talking about what it means for industries. What does a new future look like? What does the world look like in 2030? Hard to believe. Kevin Kelly, famous futurist, chief maverick at Wired, he says basically we should be optimistic not because we have less problems, but because we have more capacity to solve them. This is good to remember because every day goes by, we say, okay, we have new problems. These problems and practical problems, technical problems, societal problems, political problems, ethical problems, right? But we have more capacity. It's like every week there's a major breakthrough in something. I don't know if you noticed, for example, nuclear fusion, which is the opposite of fission, allows us to create energy, unlimited energy, basically without any pollution. And roughly in 10, 15 years, that seems to become reality. So at that point, we would have unlimited energy. I always say jokingly, energy like Spotify. So you pay $10 and there you get as much energy as you need. So that would really make a very big difference to global warming. But just to show you a graph of how you can look at things, here's one of them showing you essentially that people are predicting unemployment because of artificial intelligence and automation. You have this kind of more dark view, and then you have another view on the other side that says innovation always leads to new jobs. Which one are you going to believe? Well, it's very hard to say if that's going to be true this time. But so far in the past, every technological innovation has led to growth in jobs. Agriculture. In Europe, 90% of people 100 years ago worked in agriculture. Today, 2%. What happened to all those people? They went somewhere else as the industry was emerging to be the industrial economy and the internet economy. So it's hard to say, of course, if every job will follow that paradigm or not. But we have also another chart showing you how good artificial intelligence is getting at doing human-like work. Common sense completion, grade school, code generation, language understanding. See that curve here? Basically, whatever you ask artificial intelligence to do is getting better and better. The one thing that AI will never do, and we don't want it to do that, is to be like a human. You know what it means to be human. Fuzzy logic, inefficiency, mistakes, emotions. Can you imagine? I mean, emotions require existence. How can a computer be emotional? I mean, watch the movie Her, and you understand what I'm talking about. So anything that's hard for a computer, it's easy for a human, like immediately understanding something, and vice versa. It's called the Moravec paradox. And that is our future also for supply chain. We're going to do things that machines can't do. Anything that a machine can do, the monkey work, if you will, the commodity work, some people say the donkey work, which we all do some of, machines are learning. And I would say that's probably a good thing, not always, but generally that's a good thing. Even though some people may enjoy the routine work, computers are learning it. You can see here, received AI assistance, that's the green line. If you receive AI assistance in your job, you can learn 3 times as fast than if you didn't. That's, of course, not true for all jobs. And we're going to distribute the slides later because it may be hard to see from the back. So our capacity to work better is exponential. You see this graph here? It says basically paralegals, office and admin support, lawyers, bookkeepers, they can be up to 4 times as fast using artificial intelligence. So if you're a paralegal, you're researching a case, you can ask the AI to compare cases. Right? And you can ask it to write a non-disclosure agreement. Probably not a very good one, but it is possible. You can use it as a power tool. The AI will never be a lawyer because a good lawyer does more than just look at the facts. Right? You have to develop a story, a narrative. But we'll be faster. And the same is true for supply chain. Anything that requires understanding data, putting facts together, outlining the next couple of predictions, for the next few weeks and so on, machines are very good at this. Logic. Do not rely on a machine for things that aren't logical. You ask the AI about some murky topic. It will just make up something because it feels pressure to give you an answer. But machines are very good at logic. So now a lot of companies are using internal data, their own data, and then they ask the AI to search in there because it will get a limited answer called a custom GPT. Right? Very powerful stuff. I have one called the Gerd, my name, G-E-R-D. It's not gastrointestinal reflux disease, it's Gerd, my name. thegerd.com, the Gerd.ai, that's the address, where you can search everything I've ever written, my 1,000 YouTube videos, my books, my blog posts, and this thing will give you an answer instead of me. And very soon it will do so in my voice. So sometimes it's great, sometimes it's just flat out lies. Because, it's unfortunately that does happen. Right? So when we think about exponential change, we also have to think about this. We have to protect what makes us human. We have to protect our data. We have to protect that nobody else gets the data that it's not supposed to, like with internal things that we do. We have to be mindful that the data may be wrong or biased. Right? Like a great example was LinkedIn a few years ago. There was an ad campaign to find the data scientists. And the algorithm at LinkedIn said, there aren't any women that are data scientists, so we're not going to show this ad to women. I mean, that's flat out discrimination by a stupid algorithm. So a woman could never be a data scientist because you never see the ad. Definitely not a good thing. So we have to keep that in mind as to what's happening here. So we're approaching a future of 3 revolutions. First, of course, as you know, the digital revolution, which is primarily about artificial intelligence now. I'll go into detail a little bit later. The second big revolution is sustainability. I guarantee you by 2030 or even before that, if you're not sustainable, circular, giving back, getting on the green train, I mean, America is screaming onto the green train, right? This is like the #1 topic for the last few years. Going green, and of course Europe also, that's like 100 times as important even as going digital. That's because we're switching from the fossil fuel economy, oil and gas, to the renewable economy, and very soon the next generation, nuclear economy. Imagine a world with unlimited energy. That means unlimited water, because we desalinate, right? Unlimited food, unlimited transportation, space travel. I mean, I may be too old to see that in 20 years or so. Hopefully I will. But, if you just do the math on all these things like healthcare, for example, it's quite likely that your kids, like my kids, will live to be 100 years old on average because of all these advances and because we're able to revert climate change. The last one is the purpose revolution. Purpose revolution means people are asking for more than money. As simple as that. The next generation of people, not my generation, the Gen X, baby boomer generation, people between 25 and 40, they're asking for more than just making more money. They're asking for people, planet, purpose. They want companies to do the right thing. And this will create huge pressure on supply chain, right? Because everything you touch must eventually become sustainable, circular, renewable. Yes, and it will initially cost more, but it will also make money. Big shifts. So I call this just in a nutshell to provide some way of memorizing this. So big blue, not IBM technology, big green, and big purple. Purple is the Indian color for purpose, chakra, the understanding of humans. So big blue, big green, big purple. That's where we're going, and that's kind of the program, basically. So as we're going to that future, it's really quite clear the next 10 years will bring more change than the previous 100 years. We're getting ready for that, because the previous 100 years, we had 2 world wars, the nuclear bomb, the internet, the microchip, the mobile phone, the iPhone, all that. And now, the next 10 years, quantum computing, synthetic biology, robotics. I mean, you can see in the exhibition here, right? It's full of robotics, mind-boggling possibilities. 10 years ago, a robot trying to pick up an apple or put it in a tray would destroy the entire environment around it. And now the robot can play ping pong and do other things that are complicated. 4 things in technology: information technology, biotechnology, energy technology, and artificial intelligence. AI is not a technology, it's a research field. I'm just going to lump it in there now for practical purpose, but it kind of fits the agenda. And supply chain touches on all 4 of these. So consider yourself lucky, because information technology, biotechnology, 3D printing, and so on, energy, of course, and AI is part of your future agenda. Then we have to reboot what we think is impossible. And 10 years or 5 years ago, you were said that America becomes a leader in green energy. Impossible. And now this is a program. Things do happen. Like this is the development chain of climate technology innovation. And many investors are putting billions in there because that's the next unicorns, they're billion-dollar companies. They're in climate technology. So agricultural software, battery storage, every week there's a major breakthrough in that. Right now, the Tesla, if you have a Tesla, you'll get to, 250 miles if you drive like a snail. Maybe a little bit more. Very soon it'll be 500. In 5 years, it'll be 5,000 kilometers or miles on one battery charge. And yet you can charge wherever you drive. So, we're talking about exponential change. One thing about climate technology is that we can safely say that green is the new digital. So a lot of companies, especially in supply chain, transportation, logistics, they're thinking of digital transformation as the number 1 topic, and that's correct. But we should bring that together with green, because one enables the other. So green is the new digital is the next big step in that transformation. And AI is only the first of all of these transformations. We have quantum computing, synthetic biology, geoengineering, and all of those are what's called kingmakers. Right? So if you are the master of quantum computing, you could very easily kind of rule the world, so to speak, just like AI. Give an example here with synthetic biology. The possibility of engineering things that used to be in biology, and now they're becoming available for products. You see the chart here, and you can download, when you download these, see the rest of it, a little bit hard to see. But just to give an example here, so things like artificial meat. I know it sounds disgusting. If you like meat. And the funny thing is, now this This meat, parenthesis, is grown from cells from actual animals in a lab with fermentation, and it makes a fine hamburger or a sausage. And Bill Gates and Richard Branson have invested. I tested it the other day. I could not tell the difference between a burger and the burger from the lab because it is essentially the same meat, just grown in a lab, let's say, without dead animals. Bill Gates says in 10 years, this meat, parenthesis, will be 1/10 of the price of the cheapest possible meat you can buy. Protein problem solved. 10 billion people fed, not for free, but for, you can have one of those bunkers, so to speak, fermenting away in every major city. Then we have, of course, 3D printing, spider silk, and biofuel. This is how we're going to solve the airplane climate crisis. We fly more and more all the time, but we got to solve this problem with different fuels. So all that stuff is happening. Now, with artificial intelligence, we're getting to a situation where that's basically upsetting a lot of old pecking orders in the technology industry. Marshall McLuhan said, it's the framework that changes with technology, not just the picture. So I would encourage you to look at the framework when you look at technology, everything around it, not just one thing. So when you're looking at AI, don't just look at like a customer chatbot, but look at the whole framework, how that changes. Example is Google. Right? Google's business is forever changing now because why would you use a search engine if you can ask your AI? And when you ask AI, do you have ads? And who's in charge of the answer? It's complicated. But basically you can say AI, as we know it now, is kind of the end of Google's traditional business, which is 92% of how they make money. So very big changes. I think Google will definitely find a way out. They're smart enough for that. But very, very big changes. And then we have the Apple Vision Pro. Anybody had tried the Apple Vision Pro? The television on your face? No? This? No. Okay. Well, that's what it is. And you can say basically what's happening here is Apple is reinventing television. People always said Apple will get into television, and this is the Apple television. Basically, if you watch movies in there, it's mind-boggling, so I'll just show you what it looks like. Imagine if you had this as a director of operations for a global company with a complicated supply chain. You could look at every single, like Minority Report, pull out the data, move it over here, bring in this window, 100x. Could be very powerful. It's only $4,000, it's just kidding. But it's an impressive device, but I wonder, when we use this, will we ever want to be without it? So for me, that brings up the simple question, too much of a good thing can be a very bad thing. So I'm not so sure I want to buy one. I've tried several times, but I'm like, once I get used to it like this, this is already my second brain. For some of our kids, it's the first brain. Yeah, I'm not so sure I want another brain, but it's definitely, if I had a job like a medical director or so, or a judge, right? I can be like Tom Cruise in Minority Report and, do my job in half an hour and then go play golf. So what's happening in supply chain logistics is all that stuff means data everything, connected everything, cloud everything, compute everything, transact everything, see everything, make anything. That's where we are going. And that can be seriously overwhelming. We have to pick the low-hanging fruit. We have to say, okay, let's focus on connecting, computing. But that's basically what's happening. In 2030, we'll be sitting here, everything we'll do will have some form of AI in it, clearly. And as you can see in the showroom floor, again, technology everywhere. But it will not make humans superfluous. I'll make that argument in a little while. I'll give you some bottom lines on AI. First, let's define artificial intelligence. This is a movie from the 50s. So basically, it's a computer or robot copying what we do. Demis Hassabis from DeepMind says computer systems that turn information and data into knowledge. That's what we're talking about. Now, this should both excite you and worry you. Because after all, isn't that what we do? I mean, we're here to share knowledge. What kind of knowledge do computers have? If a computer reads all the books of philosophy, which it can in roughly 2 minutes, I can ask any question. Does it make the computer a philosopher? We'll say obviously not. Because there is more than information that counts. It's binary information. But still, computers will have knowledge. And in supply chain, knowledge is key. Knowing stuff, understanding stuff. Knowing is not the same than understanding. That's, of course, a different level, which I'll show you in a second as well. But in supply chain, it means all the information I get from the network, I can use to make decisions. And that's going to be on an exponential scale, using artificial intelligence. Generative AI, which you may have heard a lot, AI that can create, that's about data systems that can turn data and information into content and into conversation. That's a whole different cup of tea. So I can ask questions to the AI. Now let me show you what that looks like. What is the future of supply chain and artificial intelligence? One sentence, please.
The future of supply chain and artificial intelligence is focused on enhancing predictive analytics, automation, and resilience in global logistics networks.
Can you say that again? I don't speak English. How about German?
Die Zukunft der Lieferkette und künstlichen Intelligenz konzentriert sich auf die Verbesserung von prädiktiver Analytik, Automatisierung.
Okay, that's enough. That worked, right? I mean, don't want to hear that guy talk in German, but so you can ask questions. That's called conversations. Very soon, if the AI has all your information about your supply chain network, about R&D, about whatever it is that you're doing, you can ask questions about what is happening. And you can say, please generate a chart. Of course, you can say, please fix the problem, but that's risky. Because the AI taking action on your behalf, that's another step. Because obviously that will require more understanding of the whole conversation. But this is really where things are going. We're going to a platform shift. It's not going to be about cloud or the mobile phone only. That's what we had until now. Now it's about generating stuff with artificial intelligence. And you know what that means for you? Faster, more efficient, more productive, more interesting, less monkey work. But it also means you have to be able to judge what this thing is doing. I mean, if you don't speak German, you wouldn't know what it said. Right? And a lot of times it does make up stuff, not in translation. That would be easy. But so this kind of idea is pretty interesting. Here we have an app from OpenAI called Sora. Okay, Sora is an app where you can make a prompt, a sentence typing or speaking, and it makes a 60-second film from your prompt. So you can say, make a promotional film about my supply chain network and the power of XYZ product. And it will go out and fetch things. I don't know exactly how it does that. It's not public yet, but you can watch it. And then there's another app called 11 Labs that makes the sound to the picture that you ask for. So keep this in mind when you're watching this little clip. This is made by an AI, no photography involved, no cueing, no licensed videos, nothing. Well, you can watch this all if you go to Sora, OpenAI, Sora, just look for that. But keep in mind, this is completely made up without anything we've given the AI. And now, of course, you can make company speeches in the voice of your CEO using videos made up by Sora. So it's pretty mind-blowing for marketing, really interesting stuff. And here's myself. I do a lot of international speaking, and some of my clients would like to hear me speak in their language. So in this case, I dubbed myself using an app called Rask. I dubbed myself in Hindi.
सभी को नमस्कार एवं नमस्कार। मैं ज्यूरिख, स्विट्जरलैंड में भविष्यवादी गेरहार्ड लियोनहार्ड हूँ। मैं पिछले सप्ताह एक अद्भुत कार्यक्रम के लिए दिल्ली।
Anybody speak Hindi here? Yeah, no, maybe not. There you go. So it's not perfect, I hear, but it does the job. If you don't speak English, then you can watch this. here, it's a great example for AI. It's not mission critical. If I say something funny, the world won't end. Right? I will not use this for NATO air traffic control, or for anything that's absolutely like life or death. But it's this added value that I like to use it at. So AI is a general purpose technology. We have to understand this, because make no mistake about it, if you don't understand what it does and what it should do for you, you are in deep trouble. It's like saying back in the age of the printing press, you won't buy a book. So it's like the printing press, like fire, like the internet. And now the next step is we're going from the graphic user interface, the GUI, an app or typing or the browser, to the NUI, the natural user interface. Speaking, gesturing, treating the computer as if it was a person. There are lots of issues with that, I'm sure you can imagine. But think about the possibilities, the speed, the gain. Let's just keep in mind that these machines are not thinking. They're not alive. They can be as dumb as a toaster. But we can use them as a tool. It's like before the age of search, how would you find things? You go to the library. You look at books and you write down the snippets, and then came Google, and this is kind of like the next Google in many ways. We're going from the graphic interfaces to conversational AI, the possibility of asking our machine questions. Let's just make sure we stay awake. So we don't listen to the AI making an answer. And it's like, if you go to my system, the Gerd.ai, and you ask it hard enough, it will make stories up. For example, I quote other people who have PhDs, and then if you ask it, how many PhDs does Gerd have, it will say, 47 or something, just to impress you, just to be nice to me, I suppose. Right? So we have to keep this in mind, that these machines are still fraught with many things that we don't like. But here's a great example, using AI without a mobile phone and without a computer.
Imane AI Pen. It's a standalone device and software platform built from the ground up for AI. Engagement comes through your voice, touch, gesture, the laser ink display. Play the song How Music Makes You Feel Better. Weather, the date, how much protein?
These almonds have 15 grams of protein.
Okay, so there again, if it's lying, it's not a big deal, that again. I can kind of ignore it. But think about that, for example, this was going to be on sale, I think, in March, and was just postponed. This is very hard to do. In principle, it should work, but imagine you're wearing a pin like this on the factory floor. You have all this noise around you. Yeah, good luck to get a good answer from that. That's going to be complicated. But this is where we are going. In a few years, you'll be somewhere out in the field and you can answer a complicated question, and the AI will say, today was 47% lower than yesterday, yada, yada, yada. Like a digital assistant. But then we have to, of course, know how real it is or not, right? So let's be pragmatic about AI. First, it's really about what I call IA, intelligent assistance. Let's forget about the word AI for a second. There's a lot of confusion and fear about this. Really what this thing does, it is smart software that learns. So this chart shows you it's basically improve operational efficiency, customer experience, increase innovation. Yeah, it's basically better than stupid. So 10 years ago, a lot of software was flat out stupid. Would never learn anything, would never do anything different. And now this software can actually understand patterns. And can say, I've seen this before, and it looks like this. Like a digital twin in a factory, that sort of thing. Now you can actually understand what it means. You still have to make your own judgment. But let's start with IA, intelligent assistant. 98% of what you see today is software that can do deep learning, machine learning, and recommend things and no longer be that stupid. That is a great gain, I think. We're looking at essentially two pieces of this. The first one is about augmentation, helping us to get better. And what I call cognification. So basically taking data, making it smart, augmenting my role, for example, with a brain-computer interface, with virtual reality, with this device. Automation, I think that's an approach where I'd say sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not, because automation is not trivial. If you automate things wrong, it can go seriously wrong. As we've seen, for example, the self-driving car, in theory, yeah, I think you could do it in Austin, Texas still, or Phoenix, Arizona. You can still drive in a self-driving car, but it's complicated. Much better to start with cognification, making things smart, and augmenting ourselves without taking necessarily the leap into automation. People think of automation as this great sort of universal margin increaser, but I think that's a bit of a pipe dream. As Amazon can tell you, Amazon has huge automation, augmentation, all that stuff, but last year hired 247,000 people. Amazon is not doing without people. It's just different kind of people. So it's not automating people away. The idea that we're going to use artificial intelligence to get rid of people is ridiculous. What we're going to do is to make the people better. We will get rid of people who are doing absolutely nothing but working like a robot. Yes. But how many people are that? There's not that many. People do other things, even if they work routine jobs. This is a video from NVIDIA showing how human augmentation helps in the production process by tracking things. I mean, you've seen all that stuff. That's your daily business. But this will only increase. And of course, and now we're looking at other futures where we're saying, okay, this essentially, Accenture says 43% of all working hours across end-to-end supply chain can be impacted by AI. That's a diplomatic way of saying that they could end the work or something, right? But I'm not so sure about these numbers. Suffice only one thing to say, that's their own summary: the combination of generative AI or AI and human ingenuity. The key to our future in supply chain, and in general, of course, is awesome humans who can really do stuff, and amazing technology. A person with AI will always beat the person without AI. That's also not you. A person with technology beats people without technology. But AI by itself will not beat people. Not unless we design it to be that way, which is probably a very bad idea. And some people are looking in this direction. But this chart from Gartner shows you, interesting, are you using and plan to use generative AI as part of your supply chain? And this is what people are saying, 49%, this is just from last week, they're using it for internal knowledge base enhancement. Knowledge development, conversational learning, it's called. This is crucial because you can dive into your own data and understand it. I mean, that's a huge advantage if you can do that, having access to that. The other thing is, of course, customer service supplement. So you can actually work with people, for simple questions and help them out using a customer service bot. It's very straightforward, it's not difficult, it's easy to organize. I like to use those examples as a way of going forward. And inventory management. But all of those boxes are really interesting. So that's what we should investigate first without creating miracles. This company called Klarna, which is a financial services company for retail, they're using an AI assistant now, and their numbers are astounding. The last month, they had 2.3 million conversations, and 2/3 of Klarna's customers used the customer service agent instead of people. So the agent did the job of 700 people, is what the bot did. And the average transaction time went from 11 minutes down to 2.5 minutes. That's because these transactions are simple. They're not complicated. They don't require judgment. The Economist shows that this industry is at the bottom of this chain. It doesn't say supply chain here, but on this list, people who are investigating using AI, of course, information technology, services, education, transporting, warehousing, that's kind of the ballpark. That has to change. And it's such a low-hanging fruit. As long as you don't shoot for the moon, the AI is not going to be a miracle machine that replaces people and so you can run the company with AI. I think that's quite a bit of way off. Here's the bottom line. AI is good at replacing routine. So the future is not replacement of our jobs, it's replacement of the routine. And here's a bitter reality. If you work like a robot will take your job. But just the fact that you're here, obviously you're not working like a robot, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But who works like a robot? Call center? Maybe sometimes, not all of them. these jobs are going to be displaced. In a call center is one of those examples where clearly, if I do a simple call center job that have 3,000 people in one building in India, I can probably get the bot to do that eventually. So we have to think about what that means and how the displacement of that happens. Because here's the bottom line we have to realize. Machines don't think. They don't feel. They don't have hunches. They don't really understand. They don't imagine, and they certainly don't care. So as long as you don't need that, the machine is fine. And there's lots and lots of instances where we have stupid systems that are now becoming smart, where we can replace that with technology. Just don't expect the machine to have compassion. It can pretend, of course, compassion, right? It can do that, but that's not the same thing. So, the future of work pyramid looks like this. We're moving up this pyramid, and that's again why you are here. We're moving the lower part of that pyramid is now machine turf. Kind of. Data information, simple knowledge, machines can do that. By 2030, they can definitely do that. You will not beat a machine by memorizing data and information. That's already true. However, our brain is hugely efficient. Beats pretty much every machine at this point. But by 2030, machines can do that, and then we have to move above this. I think we still need knowledge and data and information, of course, because that's also human. But we have to go towards human-only skills. So that is tacit information, understanding, wisdom, making decisions. This is the kind of thing that's a little bit hard to say how we would learn that. How do we learn compassion? How do we learn consciousness? So this chart here from Goldman Sachs showing how much share of work can be automated, that should be taken with a grain of salt. And it says here, 46% of office and admin support, personal care and services, 11% transportation, but sales, business, large numbers. I would say, okay, well, that's interesting, but how real is this? Let me remind you.
Tesla car next year will probably be 90% capable of autopilot. For sure, highway. We're probably only a month away from having autonomous driving, at least for highways, like the Model S and Model X, can drive autonomously with greater safety than a person. Right now, safer than a person. By the end of next year, autonomous robotaxis for Tesla next year, and releasing it to the Tesla customer base next year. I mean, it's looking quite likely that it will.
Well, you get the point, right? Never mistake a clear view for a short distance. We may see displacement of automation, but I think we're going to see automation of routines, not of jobs. If your routine is automated, you can move up the food chain and do something else, or you can work less, for the same money, maybe. That depends on your employer. It's not all as dark as it looks. And we always say, okay, people are replaced by technology, but in the end, we make up new jobs. Do you know how many people work in social media? Didn't exist 15 years ago? 23 million. And most of these jobs are self-made jobs. You don't go to social media school. Now you can, but in those days you didn't. So it's not quite as dark. And so it's a great report you should download from the Future Today Institute, Amy Webb. The 2024 Tech Trends report is 959 pages. It's a free report, but there's about 20 pages on supply chain. And she puts out a vision called Omnivision Chain 2030, where you have an immersive platform called Omnivision. This is, of course, a vision, navigating a virtual landscape with management controllers with virtual reality who are standing in the supply chain digital world with intuitive gestures and so on. You can read that later. So I'm going to show you what it looks like if I feed that into ChatGPT and DALL-E. This is the vision of the future. Right, where we're sitting in this Omnivision. And I thought it was a little bit boring, so I asked it to animate itself, which it did. So let's see what shakes out in 2030 there, but I think that's a step in the right direction. So with humans and AI, what's happening is that maybe AI will liberate us from the monkey work. Let's be honest. Some people like monkey work, and routine is comforting. Right? Some people hate monkey work if it's too much, but we all do some of that. So now technology will help us to get rid of this if we want to. If we don't want to, then it could be a problem. But if you have 95% of routine work, then you are in deep trouble. Because technology learns routines unless they require human judgment. Like this turns out it's not really a routine, driving a car. It looks like a routine, but it's not. It's very difficult to drive like a human. And this kind of routine, why would you buy a $300,000 cooking robot? It strikes me as kind of a foolish concept. In principle, yes, it would be possible to have a bot cook for you. Great video, again, from Sora, showing what limitations are of these systems. Here we have the monkey playing chess. It's a great shot, but do you notice something? The chessboard has 7 fields, not 8, and there's 3 kings. So it's interesting, but it's not reality. It's like tiny details. This could, of course, kill your business if you're using that for, legal analysis or something, right? So Sora is great, but it has no context, no causality, no common sense, no truth, no understanding. It just puts together information. But it's still very useful. It's entertaining, at least, for us. Okay, the thing about large language models like ChatGPT, frequently wrong, but never in doubt. So what we have to figure out, how do we use them when they are frequently wrong? Of course, they're going to get better. And how do we judge what's happening here? Here I asked ChatGPT, DALL-E, to make a picture of left-handed writers creating poetry. Do you see any left-handed people here? I asked it 47 times. It still wouldn't give me left-handed people. I guess they don't exist. If I keep asking, it would create pictures of writers without hands. It would do that, but anyway, this is what AI is, if we use it correctly. It's a power tool. And you always want power tools. But power tools can be dangerous, a nail gun. If you don't know how to use a nail gun, you can be in trouble, But anyway, we use those tools. So generative AI may be the less accomplished, certainly not any of you, I'm sure. They can do a lot more because they can use this tool to make them look better. But the really accomplished, they can make leaps or chill. Because we can use this tool to be much faster, much quicker. So let me summarize. Pursue big blue, big green, big purple together. Don't just pursue technology. You have to use technology as a tool to pursue other things, like creating purpose, creating meaning for your customers, creating relationships. Remember that in the end, the one with the most relationships, the most trust, wins. Not the one with the biggest AI. Right. It's clearly a question of trust once we have AI, is to figure out if we can trust them and if we can trust the results. So that's a very important basis, and we should pursue competence with AI. I want the machine to get the job done. I don't want the machine to reason, to feel, to think. I think that's far-fetched. Why? That's what I do. So I'm against this kind of idea from OpenAI is to create a general intelligence. I don't care. I want to just get the job done. There's plenty of jobs to get done before we get to general intelligence. That's would be helpful. So let's focus on IA, intelligent assistant. The low-hanging fruit: customer service bots, transaction bots, figuring out data, mapping out stuff, setting up appointments. The stuff you've been doing, but using AI. The question about AI is not what it will do to us. This is a typical fear-based question. Right? It's not what it will do or can do to us, but what do we want it to do for us? What's the goal? And how do we use it to make our lives better, our business better? That is the key question. So I want to thank you very much for your time and attention. I want to leave you with one statement that I like to use a lot. The future is better than we think. Thanks very much for listening.